students are putting into that effort. So, dear Humphrey School, friends, students, faculty, and staff, honorary council members, advisory council members, alumni, and partners, greetings. Welcome to our annual State of the School Address, which is a report required by our school's constitution. We are bringing this address to our school community in a hybrid approach, with many of our students, staff, and faculty joining us in the Cowles Auditorium here today for one of the first times we've been together for an event since spring of 2020. Let's think about that. Let's think about that for a moment and maybe even feel a bit of this appreciation for all the steps that we have taken collectively to get to this point. I know I am feeling grateful, and I'm so very thankful to see each of you here, both in the room and online. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is such an honor to deliver my first State of the School address just a few months after officially joining the Humphrey School. So I recall viewing last year's State of the School as I prepared for my interview to become your dean. I was inspired by all that was shared and this community's commitment to the important work of public affairs, especially as we navigated the continued onslaught of a global pandemic and persistent racial injustice. I saw then and continue to see now a school community of staff, faculty, and students, alumni and friends who declared by their words and made evident by their actions that despite the circumstance, we will persevere and make our communities and world a better place for everyone. Each of you inspire me daily. From our hallway chats, our Zoom calls, our emails, our conference center, our conference presentations, your Twitter posts, some serious and funny, and the Dean walk and talks. Thank you for persevering and advancing the common good. Today, I will provide a broad overview of the key 2021 accomplishments of our school, provide some highlights on how we are doing, and then close with a vision for the year ahead. Then, as time allows, at the end, I'd like to hear from our audience, our attendees. Your thoughtful and engaging questions or comments are most welcome. And for my friends in the audience, once we get to the end of the address, you can raise your hand and we'll pass a mic. And so I do look forward to hearing from you. So this morning, I'd like to center this year's State of the School on the Zulu term, Ubuntu. Ubuntu meaning I am because we are. I am because we are. We are part of an enduring community made better by our shared values of public service and impact that bring about more equitable and inclusive communities because of our actions. Our school's mission is to inspire, educate, and support innovative leaders who advance the common good in a diverse world. I encourage us, rather than thinking about the diverse world, to think about our diverse world. For me, the image of our diverse world means we are more connected. We aren't at a distance. We are here doing the work together so that the organizations, businesses, and communities we lead, our alumni, our friends, our community advisory board members, and many, that the organizations, businesses, and communities we lead are stronger, more equitable, and resilient because of our contributions, because of our actions. The Humphrey School is deeply rooted in our local community. We're an active partner in helping governments and organizations work better on all levels to serve the public and in developing solutions to the critical challenges confronting Minnesota, the nation, and the world. I think I said Minnesota with like the Minnesota O. since my first official day as dean in January, a very cold and some may say frigid day, I have received a warm welcome from many of our incredibly talented students who are working every day to deliver on the vision Hubert Humphrey and many of the founding faculty and community members had for what a policy school could be. Students like Rashad Williams and Tao Tao, who have both received competitive, prestigious doctoral dissertation fellowships and have both published their first author peer-reviewed papers. Our students are certainly primed for advancement and forward progress. Tao Tao says this of his Humphrey School degree: I hope to become a faculty member in a research university and use my knowledge and expertise to create a healthy, sustainable, and equitable urban transportation environment. Rashad is headed to the University of Pittsburgh's Graduate School of Public and International Affairs as an assistant professor, specializing in the intersection of race, class, urban planning, and urban politics. Well done. Khalid Abdellatif will graduate this spring in the Master of Development Practice program and is working towards creating renewable, community-based energy in developing countries. He has a special focus on Africa through a multidisciplinary approach to build networks, platforms, and community engagement to ensure cleaner energy is accessible. And Kim Horner, another PhD student, is studying immigration policies right here in the Twin Cities. Her important research was recently mentioned across Minnesota media outlets, where she found that during the first year of the pandemic, immigrants in Minnesota died of COVID-19 at twice the rate of US-born residents. Our students are participating in the timely and transformative research, leadership, and community building that we can all be proud of. Let's give them a round of applause. Let's talk about our incredible faculty. I see many of you in the room here today. These faculty members are also part of these in-the-moment and cutting-edge policy conversations and research. Whether it's engaging in incredibly complicated and important conversations like global issues, pushing for new laws, as Professor Greta Friedman-Sanchez did in Colombia to better protect women from intimate partner violence, or our faculty are meeting some of the most pressing challenges of our day. We recently launched the Swain Climate Policy Initiative to engage and energize students throughout the University of Minnesota, as well as residents across the state, to become part of the solution to climate change through policy and advocacy. Here's an image highlighting this initiative. We were so pleased to welcome former Vice President Al Gore as the first speaker in this series. And he spread the message that it's not too late to avoid the worst effects of climate change if we all work together. The Swain Climate Initiative has also begun awarding grants to student and faculty researchers to work around the state to address aspects of climate change at the local level. For example, these projects focus on building relationships between the university and community partners around Minnesota's renewable energy transition. And another project focuses on bringing education, training, and career opportunities to lower income and BIPOC, or Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities. These are just two examples of the many that will really have an impact, a positive impact, as we look at these issues of climate change. Next month, we will continue the Swain Climate Policy Series by welcoming climate scientist Dr. Catherine Hayhoe. Dr. Hayhoe is the author of the book Saving Us, A Climate Scientist's Case for Hope and Healing in a Divided World. And we are truly thrilled to have her join us virtually on April 12th. A major component of this April event is our partnership with the Big Ten's Democracy in the 21st Century Group, which is a conference-wide collaboration to develop educational programming that promotes active civic education and engagement. So not only will we broadcast Dr. Hayhoe's talk for all of our school, the university, and the state, but policy students across the Big Ten will also have a chance to see it and then join breakout sessions to discuss the many intersections of climate change and policy. That's the impact of the Humphrey School. That's the impact of our actions. Now, Al Gore wasn't the only world leader we've hosted recently. Global activist Malala Yousafzai was our distinguished Carlson lecturer in February. She delivered a powerful reflection on the current state of girls' access to education globally. And that's not all. Our students are gearing up for an in-person commencement ceremony this year, which is wonderful for all of us. So students, you hear that applause. If you have not signed up for graduation, please register. Please check your email and get that part done so we can all celebrate with you on May 14th. We're also working on this year's Public Leadership Awards, which will be held on May 25th, honoring community members and organizations with a definite impact around our communities, state, and region. These include Akua Ellis, Retha Clark King, Tracy Williams Dillard, and Excel Energy. Alumna Lee Wallace, the CEO of Peace Coffee, will be recognized there for receiving the university's Outstanding Achievement Award. So more to come on that. Let's shift gears a little. We are excited. I know many of you are, I am too. We are excited to welcome two faculty members to our leadership and management area. Dr. Brandy Blessett and Dr. Tia Gaynor will join us this fall. Yes, let's applaud. Their approach to engagement with students and attention to questions of equity and justice are outstanding. I am eager to see how their work meshes with and transforms the Humphrey School. Additionally, the school will welcome back Professor and former Dean Eric Schwartz to the global policy area. He has been on a leave of absence to lead Refugees International. He recently joined diplomat in residence Mary Curtin and Associate Professor Dipali Mukhopadhyay in a virtual discussion about the Russian invasion of Ukraine. We are excited to have him back so our students can benefit from his knowledge and his on-the-ground diplomacy experience. So here are a few, more than a few, other impressive accomplishments by our faculty members. Associate Professor Bonnie Keeler was recognized as one of the university's most exceptional mid-career faculty members as a recipient of a 2021 McKnight Presidential Fellowship. She'll receive significant grant money over the next 3 years to support her research into sustainability science and environmental economics. She has also been named to a 3-year term on a subcommittee of the Environmental Protection Agency's Board of Scientific Counselors. Also in the STEP area, Professor Peter Callow and Professor Gabe Chan were recently appointed to the working groups that support Governor Tim Walz's Climate Action Framework. This framework envisions how the state of Minnesota will address how the state of Minnesota will address and prepare for climate change. In addition, Professor Chan recently launched the Electric Cooperative Innovation Center. The Electric Cooperative Innovation Center, along with researchers at UC Davis, to develop partnerships with electric cooperatives to navigate the transition, the very important transition to sustainable energy. The 2022 Status of Women and Girls in Minnesota report, published by Professor Christina Ewig, I have to say my cross-country ski instructor, illustrates the insecurities and inequities faced by women and girls in our state and shows how they have been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Professor Samuel Myers, Jr. has been named to the Committee on Law and Justice of the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine, the Division of Behavioral and Social Sciences and Education. The committee's mission is to improve government decision-making and promote the understanding and dissemination of research around law and justice. Professor Myers, deservedly so, has been named one of the most influential Black economists of the last 30 years. Let's pause and celebrate that. He certainly would be here with us today. I'm certain he's listening online, but he is spending this academic year in residence at the Russell Sage Foundation in New York City to complete his book on the Minnesota Paradox. Associate Professor Kathy Quick received the university's Distinguished Teaching Award last spring. The honor is one of the highest bestowed on faculty at the University of Minnesota. Assistant Professor Audrey Dorlian is contributing to the research in racial and ethnic disparities in COVID-19 infections and deaths. She's studying whether Black and Hispanic individuals have had more interpersonal contact than white individuals during the pandemic, which could help explain the differences in COVID exposure. Assistant Professor Fernando Berga recently received a grant from UROC to research the legacy of fast food outlets in North Minneapolis and how the neighborhood could be transformed to be more healthy and culturally relevant. Assistant Professor Yuan Daniel Cheng was named to the Minneapolis Parks Foundation Board in January. This role fits in well with his research, which explores the changing relationships between local governments and nonprofit organizations as they relate to parks and recreation services. Professor Larry Jacobs, I told you there was a lot, authored a new book, Democracy Under Fire, Donald Trump and the Breaking of American History, which examines the historic forces within America's party system that he argues have weakened our democracy and rewarded toxic political polarization. Professor Raghi Assad is co-editor of another new book, The Egyptian Labor Market, a focus on gender and economic vulnerability, which explores how the Egyptian economy has responded to the many challenges it has faced in the decades since the 2011 Arab Spring uprisings. And I know Assistant Professor Fayola Jacobs is here. She was named an author of the Human Social Systems chapter of the 5th National Climate Assessment. This is a report on climate change impacts, risks, and adaptation across the United States. Let's give them all a round of applause. This list is but a sample of our faculty's amazing work and positive impact. So, I could keep going here, but let me now turn to recognize Catherine Squires. Catherine Squires, our Associate Dean for Faculty and Strategic Initiatives. As soon as she arrived at the Humphrey School, under the deanship of Laura Bloomberg, the pandemic hit. And it changed everything in Catherine's role completely. As Dean Bloomberg announced her timeline for leaving the school, Catherine stepped up. With support from Provost Croson, she took on the role of interim dean, and in Catherine's words, became the school's utility infielder. Catherine, thank you for catching everything we threw at you. I can't thank you enough for your generosity of knowledge, of expertise, and of time during this critical time of transition. Thank you. And that's a pretty good picture, huh? As the university looked to return to campus last fall, the school began making plans for what that might look like. Under the leadership of Catherine, our staff were able to continue the education and outreach functions of educating students in ways that support the ongoing changes brought about by the pandemic. Last summer, through numerous surveys, focus groups, and more, the school leadership wanted to capture how our staff, faculty, and students felt about a return to the building and classroom. Balancing those needs has been a top priority of the school and the university as we navigated the return to this fall. We've made adjustments along the way, maintaining our commitment to keep our community safe in the face of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, while experiencing a successful academic year, keeping those things in balance. Academically and operationally, we are deepening our focus and intentions around our diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice efforts. We want Humphrey to be not just a welcoming environment, but a place where everyone thrives. A report from last year's DEI strategies is located on our website, and we will continually assess our successes and opportunities for improvement here. Our staff are often at the center of our successes, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank them for their contributions to the school's ability to educate students, alumni, neighbors, and friends, both within and beyond our walls. We are truly a team because of the efforts of each member of our staff. Thank you. Now I'd like to talk about where we are from a financial and stability perspective. I've practiced this line a little bit. I am pleased to say the state of the Humphrey School is strong. I am pleased to say the state of the Humphrey School is strong. We remain a renowned public affairs school nationally, and our programs in nonprofit management, social policy, and urban policy continue to be ranked highly. Our annual Humphrey Counts gives a high-level snapshot of how the school is doing. I'd like to highlight our fiscal year 2021 budget of $24.8 million, which is down from $27.7 million from the previous year. I'd like to give some context to this change. Our school experienced pandemic impacts, which are very similar to what most organizations experienced. With that, enrollment was affected, which in turn resulted in reduced tuition revenue. You can see that tuition and student fees were $7.5 million in 2021. This is in comparison to $8.1 million the year before. Relatedly, some of our expenses went down due to the pandemic, like travel and events expenses, so we saw some savings there. As we have seen our events ramping back up, that will change for the coming year, as will our ability to more fully resume the conference center operations and rental for external and internal use. We have recently hired a new conference center meetings and events coordinator, Dan Jacobson. Welcome, Dan. We know, yes, let's welcome Dan. We know his talents and experience can help revive revenue that comes from rentals here. In fact, we are working to refill several positions that we were unable to during the pandemic when the university instituted a hiring freeze. As we look to this year, we are working diligently to maintain balance with expenses and revenue to stay in alignment, and I know we can do that. A key area that we are addressing is within our research portfolio. For 2021, externally funded research grants and contracts came to $5.3 million here in the Humphrey School. This is a priority for us to build up and focus on. Associate Dean for Research, Ryan Allen, will more fully be able to lead this important aspect of growing our school. Our donors continue to be a critical part of how we grow, expanding access to public policy education to students through scholarships, staying true to our missions of teaching, research, and outreach. For 2021, we provided $1.6 million in scholarships for our students. That is a fantastic set of resources that we can help use to expand access for our students. Thank you to all who've contributed to that. I'd like to talk a bit about our enrollment numbers now. This year, we had 376 students enrolled in our 6 master's programs, 54 students within our 6 certificate programs, and 27 doctoral students representing 40 countries. I am pleased to report that our admissions rate in our master's programs have increased. This academic year, we admitted more students than we have since 2016. Let's celebrate that. That's fantastic, especially knowing what's happening in schools across the country. We are continuing to strive toward matriculating a class that is reflective of the communities we serve. Here, around our campus, our state, nationally, and internationally. We hosted 22 fellows virtually this year for the Junior Summer Institute, and we'll welcome the fellows to campus this June. We had 32 policy fellows, 10 international fellows and scholars, and 27 fellows with the Equity Works Leadership Institute. Our Humphrey School networks remain strong. Our mighty alumni community has grown to more than 5,400 individuals working in government, the private sector, nonprofits, and in the academy. I am so proud of all we have accomplished together. What does the next year look like for our school? And what are the priorities we're focusing on? Curriculum, research, and pathways to public service leadership. With research, we will expand and amplify our global reach and impact. Research is and will continue to be woven throughout our curriculum, equipping students with the cutting-edge evidence, practices, and tools to be successful in their chosen fields. This research focuses here and around the world. Student interest in policy and planning programs with particular interest in the global implications of local practices and vice versa continues to grow. Work in this area is key to meeting student needs and informing the field to produce better public affairs, policy, human rights, planning, development, science, technology, and environmental work. Another key priority is to expand pathways to public service leadership by broadening access to Humphrey School degrees, certificates, and non-credit cohort programs. We want everyone to have a chance to experience the Humphrey School and its outcomes. And last but not least is curriculum. We will continue to innovate educational experiences by building on the technological advancements in teaching that emerged in response to the pandemic. This will enhance student learning in current course offerings and expand offerings to engage different types of students in Greater Minnesota and internationally. I'd like to talk a bit about how our curriculum continues to evolve. I have had many conversations with the Humphrey School community over the last few weeks, with our advisory council members, staff, faculty, alumni, and students asking what a public affairs school means to them. With the level of skepticism and mistrust of public institutions that's been so prevalent these days, it's important to have good, sound strategies and policies in place that will actually serve our residents well and improve our society. We work toward that goal. We do, in a couple of ways, through teaching and research. What public policy schools do, and we here at the Humphrey School do very well, is to prepare the next generation of leaders who can bring diverse people and communities together to tackle the complex challenges and divisions in our world. We as a community are poised to solve what I call wicked problems faced by society that one discipline alone cannot handle. We need to focus on policy, systems, and environmental changes that determine the rules by which society is governed. Getting these right is the key to moving us forward in these issues of the intersection of urban planning and environmental injustices, a divided political system plagued by inaction, the transformation of our transportation systems caused by the pandemic, responding to the climate crisis through a policy and equity lens. Our faculty members address these issues of climate change, racial injustice, gender inequality, human rights, global development, and continued growing health inequities in the 55401 zip code and the many places a flight from MSP can take you. Community. Community is what we're about. I am because we are. Our staff, faculty, and students, our alumni, advisory council, and many friends and supporters, we truly embody the spirit of Ubuntu. I am because we are. Without each one contributing and doing their important work, the work I've highlighted today, we, the Humphrey School, would not have this tremendous impact. Thank you. Thank you. I also want to thank you for being here today and watching us virtually. We hope to bring you many, many more opportunities to gather in person or virtually in the coming months. Now, I'm wondering what questions you have about what you've heard, or even to hear your thoughts on what our possibilities are for the future. And again, for my friends in the audience, please raise your hands and we'll pass you a mic. As you ask your question or share a comment, please tell us who you are and your connection to the Humphrey School, where you sit as the we are in Ubuntu. Thank you. So any questions from our audience?
Hi, Dean Bochway. This is Megan Pierluisi, and I'm one of your staff members in the communications office. I would like to get maybe this warmed up a little bit and ask what your favorite Minnesota activity has been so far.
So Christina may be upset if I don't say cross-country skiing. That was good, but man, my whole body hurt afterwards. You know, I think my favorite activity has just been, walking throughout the community, figuring out how not to slip on ice, and just seeing the beauty of winter in Minnesota. It's accessible. We can all go out and walk. Just get your yak tracks so you don't slip. But it's been just getting out and spending time outside in the snow. And I'm sorry to many of you, I wished for snow last week before I went on a few trips, and snow came. So I will not wish for any more snow this winter, I promise. There's a question down here.
Hello, I'm Jen Geierwood. I work with the career office as well as with advising. And my question for you, I really was interested in what you said about pathways. That really excites me. Our students have a pathway here, and you mentioned more non-credit programs. Could you expand a little bit on maybe some possibilities and some vision in that area? Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. And Jen, thank you for all of the work that you do in the Student Success Office and supporting them as they are here and transitioning into career opportunities beyond the Humphrey School. So I'll give you two examples. One is our work with Native American communities, but in particular around Native American governance. So we know that we are in a space where Native American peoples and Native American land is sometimes in conflict with other prevailing governments. And we want to make sure that we're equipping our Humphrey grads and professionals throughout the state of Minnesota and beyond with the skills they need to best manage and engage with Native American governments. And so that would be one area that we're hoping to expand, and perhaps that's something that we can do in a Summers at Humphrey program, and so that's something that you should keep your eye out for. And then the second area really looks at, and this is just two examples, but a second area looks at planning professionals around the state. Do we have enough trained planners in the state of Minnesota? And how do we make sure that we are providing the support from our planning faculty to the profession in the state to make sure that those communities can be planned well for the next generations to follow. And so providing continuing education throughout the state for planning professionals. Thanks, Jen.
Good morning. I'm Kristen Thompson. I'm an alumna for 2006, and I'm president of the alumni board. So as that, in that role, I want to say we stand ready to support you in your goals and your mission that you have for the Humphrey. And also, maybe just by way of a softball question, ask if you have a couple ways you might offer for alumni to support what you're planning in the next year or so, where you see alumni maybe fitting into your mission.
Thanks, Kristen. So our alum currently are engaged in a number of ways in support of the school. The alumni have a mentoring program for students. They support students in engaging in internships. Our students, I believe last week, were on their virtual DC trip, and in previous years, pre-pandemic, were in DC together. And when we were in DC 2 or 3 weeks ago, we heard from the alum who were there, and students were not with us, but alum were with us. They said, we miss the students. We want to see them. We want them to come. And so we look forward to having them join again next year. But there are opportunities where the alumni can support with interviews and interview prep, can support in some of our outreach to high school students to help engage them around the work of the Humphrey School. We are looking forward to launching some new programs that we truly hope the alumni will own, and kind of just lead the way in those relationships and those connections. I'm hedging what I'm saying because we're not fully baked on what those ideas are yet, and we want to co-create these opportunities with the alumni. We certainly don't want to say thou shalt, but we want to work together to make sure that the engagement that the alumni invest in truly is of interest to them in their time. And we want to hear from you. What are some of the other ways that you want to be involved so we can make those opportunities available? Thank you.
Dean Beautray. I'm Laura Bishop, and I chair the advisory committee and advisory board for the Humphrey. One of the things that struck me from reading through the materials was that 23% of recent graduates went into the private sector. And as someone who's worked extensively in the private sector, I'm just wondering how you're maintaining those ties with the private sector, especially with such great businesses here in Minnesota that have made strong commitments to social justice, environmental social governance, and probably would want to be continue to be engaged with the Humphrey as well.
Thank you, Laura. Great question. We, as you know, we have individuals from the private sector on the advisory council. We also have spent a lot of time in my first 90 days reaching out to individuals in those companies, both here in Minneapolis and St. Paul and throughout the nation. Alumni who are in those positions in addition to friends of the Humphrey School. One of the things that I think is really important to highlight here is that as we think about students coming into the Humphrey School, often they are focused on the public sector, government positions, and when we think about private organizations or corporations, it's kind of boo-booed or poo-pooed on. But what an opportunity we have for Humphrey School graduates to move into these private organizations and corporations and to help shape the values around sustainability and equity and a whole host of areas to make sure that those organizations are able to continue to progress as the society needs to progress. And so 23% is great. Maybe we could get to 30 or 35 or 40. But we should make sure that we are not shortchanging the Humphrey School and saying that you should only work in a particular space, nonprofit and government. But the world is your oyster. Engage in every space and change it from the inside. And so that's the approach that we want to take. And I know that's something that Isaac Reyes from Target has shared often with us, and he and Target and others are a big supporter in making sure that our students see the value of working in these spaces. And the other thing I'll say is that the university has just established a new central office that focuses on these Fortune 500 corporation, private organizations, and they're a great resource for us. We just met with them about 2 weeks ago to help figure out how we can better connect and make sure that the Humphrey School is on their radar and we can provide opportunities for them to engage with us. Thanks, Laura.
Okay, we will take one last question, Dean, and then we will transition to the boxed lunches for those who have ordered one. And we have a few extras out there too. So I see a hand up over here. We'll go over there.
Hi, my name is Ragi Asad, and I'm a faculty member in the Global Policy area. So the Ukraine crisis has shown how interdependent our world is and how much what happens here in the US is affected by what's happening in the rest of the world. Could you give us your vision for how to strengthen the global policy area going forward, and also how to put Humphrey School on the map when it comes to global education?
Raghi, thank you for your question. You always seem to give me easy questions. As I look to what's happening in Ukraine, and I'm channeling Mary Curtin here. I hope I'm channeling Mary Curtin. I see a lot of the conflict there as a matter of power, of a lack of desire to share power and to hold power. In addition to proximity in understanding and appreciating the culture and history and respecting those things of the other group. I think one of the opportunities we have here in global policy is to make sure that not only do we support the faculty who are in the global policy area, but that we hire additional faculty to join that cohort. So we have the Stassen Chair that we will fill this year. So those of you in the room and listening on YouTube, if you work in global policy, look out for that job announcement, because we will be hiring in global policy starting in the fall. I'd also say, Raghi, that for our students, for our communities who we engage, to give them the opportunities to go beyond the state, to go beyond the nation, to visit Japan, to meet folks in Nairobi, to go to Egypt and join you on a trip, in addition to bringing those communities into the Humphrey School, as we do with the various fellows and scholars who come into the Humphrey School, and then creating the opportunity for that proximity to close, for that understanding and respect of history and experiences and culture to be reinforced. And so our students can be those ambassadors who now have that understanding, who have that appreciation, who can be the interpreters and the advocates for global engagement and global partnerships and peace that we need as a world. We live in just challenging times. And I'm sure every generation said, oh, this is the very challenging time. We live in very challenging times. The attention spans that our kids and perhaps some of us have, it's shrinking, right? And so perhaps the thing I would leave with us, whether we're talking about global policy or domestic policy or local government, is that we have to figure out a way for our communities to stop spinning in our own silos, right? Where we're in echo chambers and we're only hearing and seeing and experiencing the thing that is common to us and common to the same people in that same spinning top tornado. And provide a way for the Humphrey School to return to what Hubert Humphrey said, that this should be a place where we have the opportunity to dissent, debate, and dialogue. And that our students and our faculty and our staff are able to come to the table and to bring people of different perspectives and experiences to the table and to stay at the table, to build bridges and conversation. So when we leave the table, we're better for it. And our world is better for it. And so that's what I hope for us, for global policy, for social policy, for everything we do here at the Humphrey School, that we are a space for dialogue, dissent, and debate, because that is what's going to transform our world. Thank you. And thank you all. I think there's lunch in the forum just outside the doors to my left, and so I will join you all there.